Hey guys, so today we have a Mcculloch 3516. This I grabbed for like $9. Um, it could need a lot of work, but I don't really mind because it's going to be a great project saw for the channel. So let's just see what it needs. First, I'm going to start just with starting fluid to see if it fires and dies. I tried to add gas, but I saw the fuel lines were already broken, so that's not going to pick up any gas. So let's first start to see if we have vitals. Take this cover off. As you can guys see, I got a tripod, so that's awesome. Should make for better quality content since I'll be hands-free. All right, we got vitals, so that's good. All right, so far all I can do now is just take this air cover off just so I can see where the fuel lines are routed, take a picture of that, and get a list together of stuff I need. I know I need a new primer bulb because this thing is rock solid, so that's not going to do anything. So I need a new primer bulb, I need all new fuel lines, new fuel filter, so that I can get to tackling the fuel system. The bigger screwdriver. That was really on there. Holy moly. All right, let's see what's under here. Not too shabby. Here's what we have going on in here. One fuel line. It's really hard to see in there. It's all kind of dark. But I know the primer bulb is here. And the two fuel lines go from here in routes to this little nipple over here. So I'm going to get this further apart just so I can get a better look. I can't quite tell yet if this has to come off, but I think it might. Recoil comes off. I see there's a couple screws here. So I'll get you back on the tripod and we'll start doing that. So the screwdriver got a little impatient, so pull out the power tools. I was looking around to see how this comes apart, and it looks like this whole saw comes apart, like completely. And a couple of these holes were so deep I couldn't see in them. And yep, those screws are really deep in there. So yeah, I'm gonna hit here, here. Those are the deep ones. And then a few over here. And this whole half should come apart. We'll see how that goes. Before this gets split in half with these bolts, I gotta split the bolts right over here for the handle. See how quickly I can find this. Oh, is this too fat? I think that's too fat. Uh-oh. Gotta find something skinnier. See how this fits. And we'll also see how long it takes for me to have that fit in the hole. Here we go. Yeah, the only bad thing about older saws is they make things quite hard to work on. The engineering wasn't all there. But that's the fun about all this is we can figure out all this stuff while we do it. That's out all the way. Got another deep one. Really hard to find the hole because I just grab it and it feels like it just slips out. That's not good. Huh. I can try the flathead one. See if that does any better. Okay, you're grabbing. All right, I think we're on the move. There we go. Ooh, even came out. That's nice. Can this one grab this one too? Yep, you're in there. It's okay. I'll get it when I pull the cover off. Right. So in theory, with the screws that are still in there but loose and those screws out and that oil cover off, this should... Oop. Sorry guys. Bumped you there. Oop. Thought I hit that one. I did. Oh, there's one more deeper one, I think. Here we go. I felt it coming off a little bit. Yeah, okay. Now we're getting somewhere. I feel a tugging. Got some wires. Show you guys what I'm looking at. Alright guys, in here, got some wires, got the fuel line. There we go. But we're there though. I can see a lot more. I'll move you guys around so you guys can see more as well. So I complained about their design earlier, but honestly, I kind of stand corrected. Because when you take this whole cover off, one, you can see everything so well. You can access everything so well. And I can take this whole cover away by taking this fuel line off, which it already broke off, which is easy, so that's nice. Can pop these two wires off, get this whole thing out of the way, so you guys can see much more. So yeah, let's do that real quick. Like I said, fuel line's already broken, so that's easy. Pop off one of these coil wires. Just put that bolt back where I found it. All right. This should just pry right off, hopefully. Yep. All right. So the fuel line on the primer bulb is going to be easy to change because it just goes from here to the primer bulb that just hangs over the carburetor right there. But the gas tank fuel line that goes from here all the way into there, going to be a little harder to change, but not impossible. So I guess all that's next is get the fuel lines, the fuel filter, and the primer bulb, and we will continue this. There is one more fuel line I forgot about. It's tucked in really in there and must have snapped right there at that point. I didn't even see it at first, but I had a feeling it was there. So yeah, there's 3 fuel lines to deal with, 2 that go to the primer, and then the other one that goes directly from the tank to the carb. So yep, all those fuel lines, the fuel filter, and the primer bulb will be all changed, and the carburetor I will go through as well. So I was going to try to rebuild this carb, but after going through it and seeing, mostly how bad this intake looks, the chances of it being fully resurrected and working perfectly is pretty low. So I opted on getting a new carburetor for it. Unfortunately, the only options out there are aftermarket, so that's all we got to do. Because OEM isn't available anymore, so I picked him up, and this goes for different models, so we'll see how this goes. So this kit also came with fuel line, primer bulb, fuel filter. I'm not sure how great of quality this stuff really is, but it was part of the kit, so I'm going to try and install all of it and see how it turns out. So I feel like some of the fuel line on this part is going to be very hard to show just from just your viewer perspective and everything, and just the angles I got to go to try and get it done. So I may do that off camera, but all the stuff I can do on camera I will. So let's get started. So one easy thing to do is the primer bulb. This just gets put right in here, and yep, all snapped in, ready for the fuel lines. The first thing I'm going to try and do is trim back some of this fuel line, make it skinny, so we can shove inside the hole pretty easily. Wow, these cutters don't really work very well. Here we go. So my hand will get in the way, but the hole we're going for is right here. And there's a second one right below it that's really hard to see, but I'm going to try and do what I can. There we go. All right. That's one. I'm not sure which one's going to be the return line, which one's going to be the draw line yet. I'm just going to get them both in there and then decide from there. Here we go. So, well, let's get the carb on there and see which lines go where. So from mapping out these few lines to the carburetor, I should have paid more attention when I first pulled the carb off, but the few lines were pretty much gone anyways when I pulled it off. It was hard to see, but just from mapping it out, it looks like that this top line is going to be a return, and the bottom one that goes to the primer is going to be the draw, because it draws up to the primer and then it pushes into the carburetor and then out there. So this bottom one I need to pull out longer, so I'm gonna put a fuel filter on it. And this one I just got to cut off short because it's just a return. But I'm gonna try to pull this back in to save some length for the primer area. So that's my plan now. There we go. Shove that inside the tank. And now we'll get our lengths for the carburetor. This top one is the return, and it goes to here. I'm going to try and get some lube on there so I can push it on further. So what I'm going to do also is lightly get this air filter cover back on, just to hold the carb in place while I'm doing the rest of it, just so it doesn't all like come apart on me, and so I can get some accurate distances when it comes to the rest of the fuel line, since the primer bulb is attached to the cover that splits in half. So got that on there. Alright, so with this primer bulb, by testing it, I saw that this smaller post is the one that draws. So the one to the fuel filter, which is this one, is going to go on that one. So let's do that now. Just need plenty of length to get it on there and be able to split it, but I need to find a way to put it together and not pinch everything. So it doesn't hurt to start with more than necessary, and you can kind of trim down as you need to. So I know at a bare minimum, this amount will be fine. So trim that off. I'll get this. It's hard to do with the camera, but yep, get this on the small one. So this other fuel line goes on to this part of the carb. That slid on nice and easy. Again, gonna try and give this some good length. Can always trim down if I need it. Let's go there. So what I'm going to try and do to make sure I'm on the right path here before I put it all back together is I'm going to put some gas in the gas tank here and see if all the priming stuff works the way it's supposed to, and then if not, I can move some lines around, but I'm pretty sure I'm on the right track. Right, that should be enough there. This is the return line I have chilling right here, so we can see if everything primes properly and comes out that line. So I'm going to hit the primer now. So far the fuel isn't coming up, so I could have a line in the wrong spot. So I'm going to try and switch the lines on the primer line and see if that changes anything. All right. All right, guys, it took a bit, but I actually got it. So turns out this line is actually the draw line. So I had to switch these, get a longer line to have as the return because that was super short because it's supposed to go all the way to the primer here. And yeah, she's working. The primer bulb is full now. The return line is returning, so we can continue. Gonna get these coil wires back on. All right, coil wires are on there. All right, guys, I had to do a lot of finagling off camera just to make sure everything was lining up properly. It was so hard without looking at every single little detail. So now I just got the screws and gonna get this back together. Prime it a few times. 1, 2, 3. Full choke. Make sure it's not on stop, which is up. Let's give it a go. Take it off choke. And that's satisfying. Seems to idle well. Oh. Haha. Good old Jinx, gotta love that. All right, let's get this bar and chain back on. The engine still may need some tweaking, but I want to see how it does under a load with wood. Oh, there's that. Right. Get this bar cover back on before I tighten the chain. So these bar nuts, I like to get like finger tight, just so it presses up against the bar ever so slightly, so the bar and chain don't pop off as I'm trying to adjust it. Now we're ready for adjustment. Just need to know where that adjustment screw is. So the adjustment screw is right behind the bar here. The more you turn to the right, the more the bar pushes forward, and the more it tightens the chain. Like to make sure it's lining up. And then as you're tightening the bar, it's a little awkward here with the camera and also where it is, but I'm going to hold up the bar just so it tightens the chain as much as it can. Give it the pull test. Give it a little bit more tension. And then as you're holding the bar up, tighten the nuts the rest of the way. Once one is tight, the bar usually is fine. You can let it go. And then after that's tight, just gonna tighten these back ones real quick. I give the chain a push test just to make sure everything is rolling properly. And it is. Now we're ready to go test it in wood. All right, guys. It's been a couple days. I did some fine tuning with the saw, and I feel like it's at a good point for us to start it up and test it in some wood. And we'll call it a day if it all goes well. All right, I already primed it, so it's on choke. Take it off choke. So there we have it, a Mcculloch Mac 3516 brought back from the dead. It's always a risk doing aftermarket carburetors, especially for 2-cycle, but with this OEM carburetor not being available anymore, we had no choice. But overall, it worked really good. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.